Another powerful magnitude 5.9 earthquake rocked Puerto Rico this morning, and the governor declared it a major disaster. Thousands remain without electricity or water. As David Begno reports, it's the latest in a string of quakes to strike the island since Tuesday, with damages estimated at $110 million.
Today's earthquake was centered off the southern coast, but felt by everyone on the island. We are in one of the hardest hit municipalities of Guanaco. You've got people still sleeping in the park behind me. In fact, we stopped by this home and we noticed this family of 11, which lives in this home. They have no power, they have no water, and they've been sleeping out in the yard since Tuesday. Sleeping with them is their 71-year-old grandmother, Rosa. She has end-stage Alzheimer's, and she has been on this cot. She is sunburned, she is sweating, and she looks miserable. And they are desperate to find an ambulance that will evacuate her from here. A lot of the damage can be seen on social media. There is major damage, but there are no injuries or deaths to be reported. It's elderly people like Rosa who are most in need of services tonight. The government says it's doing everything that it can. Speaking of the government, the head of the Power Authority has evacuated a power plant along the southern coast. We visited that plant earlier in the week. Now all of the workers have been told to not report to work indefinitely for their own safety because the aftershocks continue. As Rena said, the governor has asked the president to sign a major disaster declaration. If that happens, people here will get things like temporary housing, they'll get help with permanent housing, and they might get some peace of mind. Can you imagine living for the last 14 days with an earthquake happening several times every day? Back to you.
A gruesome murder grabbed headlines across Michigan in December 2018 after the discovery of a woman found dismembered. Jared Chance was convicted late last year and sentenced to between 100 to 200 years in prison. And now, as Barton Dieters reports, Chance's father is on trial himself, charged with perjury and being an accessory after the fact.
In emotional appeals to the jury today, lawyers for the defense and prosecution argued over whether 77-year-old former cop James Chance was trying to help or hinder the investigation into his son's crimes.
Well, of course he has a motive. It's a no-brainer. His motive, ladies and gentlemen, is to help Jared get away with Ashley's mutilation.
What is not in dispute is that days after Jared Chance killed and dismembered Ashley Young, James Chance discovered his son committed the crime and drove him between Holland and Grand Rapids in a car that contained Young's limbs and other evidence.
He knew what was in that box, ladies and gentlemen. He damn well knew what was in that box.
Also not disputed is that as soon as James Chance learned of the crime, he took his son to the Grand Rapids Police headquarters and told them his son wanted to talk with an attorney present.
But the moment he walked out of GRPD and his wife put the car in drive and they left, that evidence was tampered with and moved, and it was done so with the purpose to help Jared.
Public defender Laura Joyce said her client told police about his son's crimes and begged them to act.
But you can't blame Jim, because he tried. When he didn't have to, he tried.
She said her client had no legal obligation to help police, but did so anyway. Joyce says any omissions were the result of faulty memory, not an attempt to deceive.
And he's confused about time. And yeah, you know what? Maybe he forgot, okay, that Barb went and bought a pot pie at Costco. How dare the prosecutor act as if they took 2 hours to figure out some kind of different plan? How dare he?
In dollars and cents, Tesla is making history once again by becoming the most valuable U.S. automaker ever. At last check, Tesla shares had a market value of $86.5 billion, topping Ford Motor Company's record high of just over $76 billion for shares in 1999. It's a tremendous jump considering Tesla hit a 52-week low last June. The automaker still has a lot of ground to cover to become most valuable automaker in the world, as Toyota's market value is about $228 billion.
Well, the FAA is hitting Boeing with a multi-million-dollar fine. This after newly released internal emails from Boeing reveal employees were raising red flags about the 737 MAX years ago. 2 of the jets later crashed overseas, killing 346 people. Chris Van Cleave has more on what those emails said.
The 117 pages of messages show Boeing employees ridiculing colleagues, mocking the FAA, airlines, and even making light of potential issues with the 737 MAX. The 2 MAX crashes killed 346. One wrote, "This airplane is designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys." Another asked a colleague, "Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft?" "I wouldn't." "No," was the response. The messages sent between 2013 and 2018 predate the Lion Air crash in Indonesia, raising questions about whether Boeing knew of potential problems. House Transportation Committee Chairman Peter DeFazio.
This stuff is absolutely outrageous. They're going to have to do some big house cleaning at Boeing.
Lion Air wanted simulator training for its MAX pilots in 2017, but it appears Boeing talked them out of it, an employee ridiculing the airline for asking, calling them idiots. A Boeing test pilot boasted about deceiving the FAA, who was in charge of certifying the 737 MAX. "I still haven't been forgiven by God for the covering up I did last year."
They were deliberately concealing information from the FAA.
There's also concern about these 2013 messages where Boeing employees talk about efforts to keep the system at the center of the 2 crashes secret. Boeing calls the emails completely inappropriate. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
Well, a warning for parents about a respiratory virus that's hitting infants and young children hard across the U.S.
How to spot and prevent this potentially fatal sickness next.
Plus, Will Smith opens up about the one role he wishes he could have locked down. But which one exactly? Find out in just a bit.